May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Please be seated. You don't have to tell me to keep awake. I'm awake. And I join with Isaiah and pray, oh, that you would tear open the heavens and come down. We are awake. And day and night we are bombarded with breaking news that keep us awake and anxiety over the state of the world and our nation. This past Wednesday was a particularly hard day, waking to the news that North Korea had missile capacity to reach the U.S., the ongoing lack of dialogue about tax reform, our president's retweets about Islamophobic videos, and then his words that Access Hollywood video of him might be a fake, the firing of Matt Lauer on NBC and Garrison Keillor on NPR, and then on Thursday morning, and then on Wednesday, and then on Thursday, and then on Saturday, we are awake. I know that when some people hear this gospel lesson, they believe that Jesus is talking about a second coming at the end of time. And that may be, and I don't know what God's plans are into the ultimate future. Just the other day, someone stopped me and said, "It's sure to be soon. Look at everything that's happening in the world." There's something very comforting and hopeful about a supersized Jesus coming on the clouds to rescue the world from evil. Of course, unless we fear he might see something in our lives. Instead of a future coming into the future and end of time, what if we are to interpret the coming of Jesus in great power and glory as something that has already happened? Something that happened at his crucifixion and resurrection. He says to his disciples in this gospel, this generation will not pass away until all these things have taken place. His first coming at his birth, his second when he is seen in glory on the cross and in his resurrection, when he was revealed in glory. If we do believe that the crucifixion of Jesus and the resurrection are more than just metaphor, and that what really happened to Jesus had cataclysmic, cosmic significance, which I do, then staying awake has real significance. The coming of Christ happened, and yet the coming of Christ is happening again today. Christ is coming again today in our lives. We are not to be staying awake just for some future coming, but rather we must join the disciples in the Garden of Gethsemane, that moment. Remember the night before Jesus died? Jesus was aware that his death would come soon, and he asked his disciples, stay awake. He wanted them to stay awake with him. They did not take seriously the significance of what would happen. If they had known that Jesus would suffer, be killed, the next day, they would have stayed awake. But Jesus chose the way of the cross, and they did not. You might be going, oh my God, Susan, how did you get to Gethsemane when we're on our way to Bethlehem? When this is the first Sunday of Advent? And how are we supposed to get ready for the birth of Jesus, the Messiah to come, the newborn king, in just 3 weeks? And you're talking about Gethsemane. Why would the lectionary people, those who chose the readings for today, I remind you that I do not choose the readings on a Sunday morning. And that clergy are forced to preach. Episcopalians, Roman Catholics, Lutherans, particularly those denominations, we get told to preach on certain things. And sometimes I think that would be better to be a Baptist because they get a little more freedom. For me, the gospel today is breaking news of ancient news that has present-day significance. We are a people called to be awake. We must bring our anxiety over North Korea or the president's tweets to prayer and to dynamic action. It is tempting to want to pull the covers over our heads and try to sleep until the nightmare is over. But we can't. We have been baptized into Christ. Our identity as Christ's own is not red or blue. And I understand that some of us may have strong political affiliations, but we in this season are purple. Isn't that great? We're not red or blue. We're purple. Our color is purple. And Jesus says to us, like the disciples in Gethsemane, stay awake. Stay awake and join me in a cruciform life. Because it was in that nonviolent relinquishment of Jesus on the cross that powers of domination, powers in the universe were overthrown. Regrettably, the church still lives like nothing happened 2,000 years ago. And so many are looking up instead of looking out, looking around, and looking within, to change within. This week, in the midst of all the breaking news, it was Savannah Guthrie, and she was the newscast partner to Matt Lauer, who gave the announcement of his firing for sexual harassment. At the end of her announcement, she said, with deep sadness, "How do you reconcile your love for someone with the revelation that they have behaved badly?" She continued, "I don't know the answer to that." How do you reconcile your love for someone with the revelation that they have behaved badly? I don't know the answer to that. But we do. That's why we are here today. We do because it is in confession. It is in making amends in our lives. It is taking the consequences of things done, asking for healing in ourselves and in the people who we have hurt. That healing begins. This is a part of living in that cruciform life. This is the work of the church. It is the work of Advent to get ready, because Jesus is coming again and again and again in us. Our work is to be agents of God's reconciling love. The hard work of speaking up, of acting up, of praying heaven down, and by so doing, continuing to disarm powers of domination wherever they are met. In back rooms and boardrooms, in kitchens and in congressional chambers. And if we feel discouraged or despairing over what is happening all around us, then do something about it. Are you disgusted by Islamophobic videos? Then organize an interfaith dialogue. Or better yet, do you have a Muslim friend? Make a friend. I know this is a small thing, but just this week, Dave and I were scrolling through TV, what do you watch? And we came across an Australian TV show called East West 101. I'm not saying it's great, it's one of those detective shows. But the lead in the show, the detective, the good guy, is a Muslim. And so in the course of the show, you're taken into his life and relationships. And I thought, wow, I've never seen a show like this. I haven't even seen a TV show that had a Muslim character that was a good guy. And I thought it wasn't that long ago that African Americans, the only parts they played on TV was the butler. Thank God that's changed and needs to continue to change. But I thought, how do we make those changes? We make some choices ourselves. Are you fearful for undocumented people and threats of a wall? Then tear down walls of misunderstanding. Befriend a teen at Abbott House. Come to the party on the 16th with our kids. Are you grieved by the uncovering of continued racism in our country? Well, let's make sure that this place, this church, is a place where black and brown and white are family. And one thing I encourage you to do in this season of Advent is read the book, Waking Up White. Torcy gave it to me to read, and I'm reading it so slow, Torcy, I'm embarrassed, admit it. But the truth is, it's a very easy read and a very challenging book to process, because every single page touches me in a deep place of things that I was unaware of. And I don't ever consider myself a racist. I never consider myself uninformed. But it is powerful and important. And so I recommend that as a way to respond. Do you worry about what our government tax plan will mean for the poor and for yourself? Pray harder. And join me in seeking ways that we as individuals and as a church can reflect Jesus' care for the poor. You remember, Jesus didn't just say to us, care for the poor. He became poor. He made friends with the poor. Are you upset by the whole wedding cake freedom of speech and freedom of religion debate? And make sure you welcome gay and lesbian and transgender people here in this place and in your life, because we know it's not about cake. It's about people and welcome. Do not stay awake because you feel black and blue, anxious about red and blue. But stay awake, eager to be guided by the God of the universe who wants to show us how to live in these purple days, how to raise a joyful song above all else, that God's love has come near, and that God's love is greater than all we fear. Because we affirm, and we say this often in this church, because goodness is stronger than evil, love is stronger than hate, light is stronger than darkness, and truth is stronger than lies. Amen.